Jake had always been the kind of guy who stayed up way too late looking at stars. Tonight was no different. He'd driven his beat-up truck 3 hours into the desert, away from all the city lights, just to get a better look at the night sky through. His telescope thought the desert was perfectly quiet except for the soft wind blowing across the sand. Jake loved these moments. No phone calls, no work stress, just him and the endless stars above. He'd been out here since sunset, and now it was past midnight. His camping chair was getting uncomfortable, but he didn't want to pack up just yet. That's when he saw something weird. At first, Jake thought it was just a shooting star. But shooting stars don't slow down. They don't change direction. And they definitely don't land behind the big rock hill about a quarter-mile away. Jake rubbed his eyes and looked again. A soft, blue-white light was glowing from behind those rocks. It wasn't flickering like a campfire. It was steady, almost like someone had turned on a giant flashlight. His heart started beating faster. Jake had watched every alien movie ever made, but he never actually believed in that stuff. Still, something was definitely over there, and it wasn't supposed to be. He grabbed his phone to call someone, then realized he had no signal out here. That was the whole point of coming to this remote spot. Jake looked at his truck, then back. At the mysterious light, he could just pack up and leave. Drive home and pretend nothing happened. But curiosity won. Jake picked up his small flashlight and started walking toward the rocks. Each step made his heart pound harder. What if it really was something from outer space? What if it was dangerous? What if he was about to become one of those people who disappeared in the desert and were never found again? As he got closer, he could hear soft humming sounds. Not like a machine, but almost musical, like someone was singing a lullaby in a language he'd never heard before. Jake climbed up the rocky slope as quietly as he could. When he reached the top and looked down into the small valley below, his jaw dropped out. There was definitely a spacecraft. Down there, it looked nothing like the flying saucers in movies. This one was more like a giant pearl, all smooth and shiny, with soft lights running along curved lines across its surface. But that wasn't the most surprising part. The most surprising part was the person trying to fix it. Well, Jake wasn't sure if person was the right word. She looked mostly human, but her skin had this subtle shimmer to it, like she was covered in the finest glitter. She was tall and graceful, wearing clothes that seemed to be made of some kind of liquid metal that moved like fabric. Her hair was long and white, almost silver, and it seemed to glow softly in the starlight. She was definitely frustrated. Jake could tell even from this distance. She kept making those musical humming sounds, but now they sounded more like someone complaining under their breath. In her hands was some kind of crystal device that kept sparking and going dark. Jake watched her work for a few minutes. She was clearly smart, trying different combinations of touches and gestures to get the device working, but nothing was going right. The crystal would light up for a second, then die again. That's when she made a sound that was definitely the universal noise of someone who'd had enough. She sat down hard on a rock and put her head in her hands. Jake felt bad for her. Whoever she was, wherever she came from, she was stuck and frustrated and probably scared. He felt that way plenty of times when his truck broke down in the middle of nowhere. Before he could change his mind, Jake started climbing down into the valley. He tried to be quiet, but loose rocks scattered under his feet. The sound echoed. In the still desert air. The woman's head snapped up when she saw him. She jumped to her feet so fast that Jake was amazed she didn't fall over. Her eyes were huge and definitely not human. They were bigger than regular eyes, and they seemed to have tiny stars floating in them. But they weren't scary. They were actually kind of beautiful. For a moment, they just stared at each other. Jake realized this was probably the most important moment in human history, and he had no idea what to say. All those movies about first contact, and nobody had ever taught him the right words for meeting someone from another planet. So he did what felt natural. Jake raised both hands to show he wasn't carrying any weapons. He took a step forward, smiled his friendliest smile, and said the first thing that popped into his head, "Hello, Cutie." What happened next was definitely not in any alien movie Jake had ever seen. The woman's cheeks turned bright purple. Not just a little pink like when humans blush, but full-on vibrant purple, like someone had painted her face with glowing paint. She made a squeaking sound and covered her face with her hands. Then she peeked at him through her fingers and made more of those musical noises, but higher pitched now, like she was giggling and embarrassed at the same time. Jake couldn't help but grin. Apparently, beings from other planets could get embarrassed, just like anyone else, and apparently, his terrible pickup lines worked across species. "Sorry," he said, still smiling. "I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable. I'm Jake, and you're obviously not from around here." She lowered her hands and tried to compose herself, but her cheeks stayed that beautiful purple color. She pointed to herself and made a sound that was like music and wind chimes having a conversation. Then she tried to copy his words. Jake, she said carefully. Her voice was lovely, like she was singing even when she was just talking. "That's right, Jake." He pointed to himself, then gestured to her with a questioning look. She thought for a moment, then said something in her musical language. When Jake looked confused, she tried again, concentrating hard. Zara, Jake repeated, and her cheeks went purple again. "That's a beautiful name." More musical giggling. This was definitely the weirdest and most wonderful night of Jake's life. Jake gestured toward her broken crystal device. "Having some trouble there?" Zara looked down at the device in her hands, and her expression became frustrated again. She held it up and shook it gently, making disappointed sounds when it failed to light up properly. "Mind if I take a look?" Jake asked, holding out his hand. Zara hesitated for a moment, studying his face. Then she carefully handed him the device. It was warm and surprisingly light, and Jake could feel a faint vibration coming from inside it. Jake had always been good with electronics, even though this was definitely way beyond anything he'd ever seen before. But broken things often had similar problems, no matter what planet they came from. He turned the device over in his hands, looking for obvious damage. "See this crack here?" he said, pointing to a hairline fracture along one edge. "I bet that's your problem." Zara leaned closer to look where he was pointing. She was close enough now that Jake could see the tiny sparkles in her skin weren't just decoration. They seemed to pulse gently, like a slow heartbeat made of light. She examined the crack and nodded enthusiastically, making excited musical sounds. Then she looked up at Jake with what could only be described as admiration, and her cheeks went purple once again. Jake found himself thinking that purple was definitely his new favorite color. The next few hours were like nothing Jake had ever experienced. He and Zara worked together trying to fix her communication device, which she kept pointing to and saying something that sounded like Talk Home Machine in her musical language. Jake had brought some basic tools in his truck for emergencies, and surprisingly, some of them actually worked on alien technology. A small screwdriver helped them open a panel on the crystal device, revealing circuits that looked like tiny galaxies made of light. "Wow," Jake whispered, staring at the beautiful patterns inside. "This is incredible." Zara's cheeks turned that lovely purple color again. She seemed to understand that he was impressed, even though they could barely communicate yet. She pointed to different parts of the device and spoke in her language, clearly trying to explain how it worked. Jake listened carefully, even though he couldn't understand the words. Her voice was so musical that it was almost like she was singing him a lullaby about space technology. He found himself nodding along, picking up on her tone and gestures more than the actual meaning. After an hour of careful work, they managed to get one small section of the device working. A holographic display appeared above the crystal, showing symbols that definitely weren't from Earth. Zara clapped her hands together and made delighted chirping sounds. "Good job," Jake said, giving her a thumbs up. The purple blush spread across her entire face this time. She looked down shyly and made soft musical giggles. Jake was starting to realize that wherever Zara came from, people probably didn't give each other casual compliments very often. The working display seemed to help Zara communicate better. She touched different symbols, and each one made the device speak in different languages. Jake heard what sounded like dozens of alien tongues, then suddenly, clear English, Language learning protocol activated, the device announced in a robotic voice. Zara's eyes lit up like stars. She looked at Jake and carefully said, "Hello, Jake." "Hey there," Jake replied with a big smile. "That's much better." Her blush deepened, but she seemed thrilled to be understood. Over the next hour, Jake watched in amazement as Zara's English got better and better. The device was apparently some kind of super advanced translator that helped her brain process the new language incredibly fast. "Your people are very smart." To make this, Jake said, pointing at the device, "My people always focus on learning." Zara replied carefully, then added something that made her cheeks go purple again. "But they do not say good job like you." "What do they say?" Jake asked. Zara thought hard. Searching for the right English words, "They say acceptable performance or meets requirements. Never." She paused, looking embarrassed. "Never." "Good job with happy face." Jake felt a little sad hearing that. "That sounds pretty formal." "Very formal," Zara agreed. "I'm what you call princess, daughter of leader. Always must be proper, perfect, no mistakes allowed." "A princess?" Jake's eyebrows shot up. "Seriously? I'm sitting in the desert with an alien princess?" The word alien made Zara flinch slightly. Jake immediately felt bad. "Sorry. I didn't mean anything wrong by that. It's just, you're from space, and I'm from Earth. We're different, but that's okay." Zara relaxed and nodded. "Yes, I am from far away. Very far. I came here for an important job. First contact mission." "First contact," Jake repeated. "So I'm the first human you've ever talked to." "Yes," Zara said, then quickly added, "You are very nice first human." Her cheeks went purple again, and Jake found himself grinning. Every time she complimented him or he complimented her, one of them blushed. It was like they were having a politeness contest. "So what went wrong with your mission?" Jake asked. "Why did you crash?" Zara's expression became worried. She pointed up at the sky and made frustrated sounds before finding the English words. "My ship had problem during atmosphere entry. Emergency landing. Now I am lost, separated from my people." "Are they looking for you?" "Yes, but," Zara looked scared now, "if they find me before I complete mission, they will think I failed. Failed princesses bring shame to family." Jake felt his heart go out to her. The pressure she was under sounded terrible. "Hey, you haven't failed anything. You made first contact, right? Here we are, talking. Mission accomplished." Zara stared at him in surprise, then broke into the most beautiful smile Jake had ever seen. Her whole face lit up, and those star-filled eyes sparkled with joy. "You really think I did not fail? Are you kidding? You're amazing. You survived a crash landing. You're learning English super fast. And you're handling meeting an alien species way better than I am." That purple blush covered her entire face and neck now. She made happy musical sounds and covered her face with her hands, peeking at him through her fingers like she had when they first met. "Why do you say such nice things?" she asked, voice muffled behind her hands. "Because they're true," Jake said simply. "Where I come from, when someone does something impressive, we tell them. It's normal, normal," Zara repeated thoughtfully, lowering her hands. "In my world, only the Council of Elders may praise royalty, and they use very serious words, very proper." "That sounds boring," Jake said. Zara's eyes went wide, like he'd said something shocking. Then she started giggling. Not the musical alien sounds she'd been making, but actual human-style giggles. "Yes," she whispered, like she was sharing a secret. "Sometimes it is very boring." They worked on the communication device for another hour. Jake found himself learning about Zara's world. Through their conversations, she came from a place called the Stellar Court, where everything was planned and formal and proper. She'd been trained since childhood to be a perfect diplomat, always saying the right thing, never showing too much emotion, never making mistakes. "Sounds exhausting," Jake said. "Very exhausting," Zara agreed. "But it is my duty. My people need good relations with other worlds for trade and peace. That's really important work," Jake told her. "But it's okay to be yourself while you do it." Zara looked confused. "Be myself?" Relax, have fun, smile when you want to, laugh when something's funny. You don't have to be perfect all the time. But I am princess. I must be example. You can be a good example and still be happy, Jake said. Look, you've been more real and honest with me in a few hours than some people I've known for years. That's pretty impressive for a princess. There went the purple blush again, accompanied by more shy giggling. Jake was starting to think that helping Zara discover casual happiness might be just as important as fixing her spaceship. By dawn, they managed to get the communication device working well enough to send a basic signal. Zara could contact her people and let them know she was safe. But as the sun came up over the desert, painting everything in soft gold and pink light, Jake realized he didn't want this magical night to end. What happens now? He asked. Zara looked at the sunrise, then at him, and her expression was soft and uncertain. I do not know, she said quietly. This is not in any of my training. Jake made a decision that morning that changed everything. As Zara stared at her partially working communication device, looking worried about contacting her people, he had an idea. What if you don't call them right away? He suggested. Zara looked surprised. But I must report my status. It is protocol. Sure, but your ship is still broken, right? And you said you need some special materials to fix it properly? Zara nodded slowly. Yes. The power core needs crystallized energy that only forms in specific planetary conditions. Earth might have it, but I would need time to search. So tell your people you're safe, but still gathering the materials you need. That buys us some time. Us? Zara's cheeks turned that familiar purple shade. Well, you can't exactly walk into a human city looking like you, Jake said gently. No offense, but the glowing skin and star-filled eyes might attract some attention. Zara looked down at herself, seeming to realize the problem for the first time. Oh, yes, this could be difficult, Jake grinned. Lucky for you, I have a sister who's really into makeup and special effects. If you trust me, I think we can figure something out. 2 hours later, they were back at Jake's small apartment in town. His sister Riley had left some of her theater makeup behind after her last visit, and Jake had become surprisingly good at creative problem solving. Okay, this is going to feel weird, Jake warned as he gently applied foundation to Zara's shimmering skin. But it'll cover up the glow. Zara sat perfectly still, but Jake could see her watching him in the mirror every time he concentrated hard on getting the makeup just right. She would blush purple underneath the foundation, creating interesting color swirls. You are very gentle, she said softly. Thanks, Jake replied, trying not to notice how close they were sitting. I used to help my little cousin with her Halloween makeup. Same idea, just different results we're going for. The hardest part was her eyes. Those beautiful star-filled eyes were definitely not human. Jake had picked up some colored contact lenses from a costume shop, but putting them in required Zara to trust him completely. This might be uncomfortable for a second, he warned, holding up the lens. I trust you, Zara said simply, and Jake felt his heart skip a beat. Getting the lenses and took several tries. Zara kept blinking at the wrong moment, then apologizing and blushing, which made her giggle, which made her blink more. Finally, Jake started talking to distract her. So tell me about your home planet. What's it like? Very beautiful, Zara said, holding still as he carefully placed the lens. Everything is made of crystal and light. The buildings grow from the ground like trees, but they sing when the wind blows through them. That sounds amazing. It is. But also very quiet, very controlled. Everyone has their place, their duties. No one just talks like we do. Jake successfully got the first lens in. Zara blinked several times, then looked in the mirror. Her reflection showed a human-looking woman with ordinary brown eyes instead of star-filled ones. Weird, she said, touching her face. Good weird or bad weird? Different weird, she decided. Like wearing a costume. The second lens went in easier. Then Jake helped her practice walking. Like a human. It turned out that Zara's natural grace made her seem to float when she moved, which was beautiful, but definitely not normal for Earth. Try to put your whole foot down at once. Jake suggested, humans are kind of clunky compared to you, clunky. Zara repeated, then took a heavy step that made her wobble. She grabbed Jake's arm to steady herself, and they both froze for a moment at the contact. Sorry, she said quickly, letting go and blushing under the makeup. It's okay, Jake said, his voice a little rough. Maybe just less floating, more walking. After an hour of practice, Zara could pass for human at a distance, up close. There was still something otherworldly about her, but Jake figured people would just think she was really beautiful. Ready for your first trip to a human store? He asked. Zara nodded nervously. What kind of store? Coffee shop first, then maybe the grocery store. Just basic human stuff. The coffee shop was Jake's favorite local place, small and friendly. When they walked in, the barista, Tony, waved at Jake like always. Hey man, what's up? Who's your friend? Jake felt Zara tense beside him. This is Zara. She's visiting from far away. Cool. Welcome to town, Tony said cheerfully to Zara. What can I get you? Zara stared at the menu board like it was written in alien code, which, Jake realized, it basically was to her. Zara looked at Jake helplessly. She'll have. What I'm having, Jake said quickly, to regular coffees, cream and sugar. While Tony prepared their drinks, Jake watched Zara take in everything around her. She seemed fascinated by the most ordinary things, the music playing overhead, the way other customers sat casually at tables, the smell of coffee beans. Here you go, Tony said, handing over to steaming cups. That'll be $6.50. Jake reached for his wallet, but Zara was already pulling something from her pocket. It was a small, perfectly clear crystal that seemed to have tiny stars floating. Inside it, is this sufficient payment? She asked Tony seriously. Tony stared at the crystal, then at Jake, then back at the crystal. What is it? It is crystallized starlight from my home, Zara began. It's a family heirloom, Jake interrupted quickly, taking the crystal from Zara's hand. Very sentimental value. She's still getting used to our money system. Here's a 10. They found a table in the corner, and Jake quietly explained Earth money to Zara while she examined her coffee like it might explode. You drink this hot liquid? She asked. Yeah, it tastes good and gives you energy. Try it. Zara took a careful sip, then her eyes widened. Oh, this is pleasant, bitter but good. Most humans can't function without coffee, Jake said with a smile. Then I must learn to drink it to blend in, Zara said seriously, taking another sip. The determination on her face was so cute that Jake had to look away to keep from grinning. Too obviously. That's when he noticed Tony still staring at them from behind the counter. Is there a problem? Jake called over. Tony shook his head quickly. No problem. It's just, your friend is really pretty. Like, really pretty. Is she? A model or something? Jake felt his stomach do something weird when he saw Zara's reaction to the compliment. She blushed so hard that purple showed through the makeup around her ears and neck. Thank you, she said softly to Tony. That is very kind. Where did you say you were from? Tony asked, walking over to their table. Very far away, Zara replied carefully. Like, Europe far, Asia far. Zara looked at Jake in panic. They hadn't prepared for geography questions. Canada, Jake said quickly. Way up north. Really small town. Oh cool. That explains the accent, Tony said. It's kind of musical, you know? Zara beamed at him. You think my voice is musical? Totally. It's really unique. The purple blush spread further, and Jake realized they had a problem. Every compliment was making Zara's alien blush show through her human makeup. We should probably get going, Jake said, standing up quickly. Already? But the coffee is so good, Zara protested. We have lots of errands to run, Jake said, gently pulling her toward the door. Outside, Zara was practically glowing with happiness. That human was so nice. He said kind things about my voice. Yeah, about that, Jake said. You need to try not to blush so much. The purple is showing through your makeup. Zara touched her cheeks in alarm. Oh no, did I ruin the disguise? Not yet, but we need to work on it. maybe think sad thoughts when people compliment you? But why would I think sad thoughts when people say nice things? Jake looked at her confused, happy face, and realized how impossible his suggestion was. Never mind, we'll figure something else out. Their next stop was the grocery store, which turned into an adventure Jake hadn't expected. Zara was amazed by everything: the automatic doors, the shopping carts, the endless rows of food. Your people have so many choices, she marveled, staring at an entire aisle of breakfast cereals. Sometimes too many choices, Jake admitted. What do you eat on your planet? Energy crystals. Mostly. Very nutritious, but not very flavorful. Jake grabbed a box of her favorite cereal. Well, you're going to love human food then, they made their way through the store with Zara commenting on everything. She was particularly fascinated by the produce section, gently touching fruits and vegetables like they were precious jewels. These grow in the ground? She asked, holding up a potato. Yep, underground. Amazing. On my world. We grow everything in crystal gardens with artificial light. An elderly woman overheard and smiled at them. First time grocery shopping, dear? Yes. Zara said earnestly. Jake is teaching me about human food customs. Well, isn't that sweet? The woman said, You're a good teacher, young man. And you, dear, are absolutely lovely. There it was again, the purple blush spreading across Zara's face and neck, this time. Several people nearby noticed and stared. Thank you, Zara said happily, completely unaware of the attention. She was drawing. Jake quickly steered her toward the checkout, but the damage was done. He could hear whispers behind them about the beautiful girl with the strange skin condition. As they loaded groceries into Jake's truck, Zara was still smiling. Humans are so kind, she said. Everyone says such nice things. Yeah, Jake said, looking around nervously. Maybe too nice. We might need to find you a less social way to blend in. Everything changed on their third day together. Jake woke up to the sound of helicopters flying overhead, which was weird because his little desert town never had helicopter traffic. He looked out his apartment window and saw 3 black vehicles parked on the street below. Zara, he called softly, but she was already awake, standing by the window with a worried expression. They found me, she whispered. Who found you? Before she could answer, Jake's phone started buzzing with news alerts. He grabbed it and felt his stomach drop as he read the headlines. UFO crash confirmed in Nevada desert, and government agencies mobilized search teams. Oh no, Jake muttered. This is really bad. Zara's communication device, which they left on his kitchen table, suddenly came to life with urgent beeping sounds. Holographic symbols appeared above it, flashing red and pulsing like an alarm. What's it saying? Jake asked. Zara's face went pale under her makeup. My escort fleet has arrived in your solar system. They're demanding immediate contact with me, and they're not happy. Your escort fleet, 3 royal battleships, Zara said quietly. They were supposed to follow me after my diplomatic landing. But when I crashed and couldn't communicate properly, they thought something terrible happened. Jake felt like the room was spinning. Battleships? Like space battleships? Very large ones, Zara confirmed, looking miserable. And my father, the king, is probably on one of them. The device started speaking in that robotic English voice. Princess Zara of the Stellar Court. You are commanded to respond immediately. Your delayed communication has caused significant diplomatic concern. Jake watched Zara's expression crumble. All the confidence and happiness she'd gained over the past few days seemed to disappear. I have to answer, she said. If I don't, they'll think I'm being held prisoner or worse. What will you tell them? The truth. That I crashed, that a human helped me, and that I'm safe. Zara looked at him with sad eyes. But they'll want me to return to the ship immediately. Jake felt something heavy settling in his chest. He'd known this moment would come, but he wasn't ready for it. And then what? Then we proceed with formal first contact protocols. Very official meetings between your government leaders and mine. Very serious, very proper. The way she said proper made Jake's heart ache. He could see her already pulling back into that formal princess mode she'd described, preparing to be the perfect diplomat instead of the laughing, blushing. Curious person he'd come to care about. Maybe that's not such a bad thing, he said, trying to sound supportive even though it felt like lying. I mean, this is huge. First contact between Earth and space people. It's important. Zara nodded, but she looked like she might cry. Yes, very important. The device beeped again. More urgently this time, outside. Jake could hear more helicopters and what sounded like military vehicles. I should go outside and surrender to your authorities, Zara said. It will be easier if I cooperate. Wait, Jake said quickly. Before you do that, there's something I need to tell you. Zara turned to look at him, and Jake realized he was about to say something that could change everything or ruin everything. These past 3 days with you have been the best days of my life, he said. Not because you're an alien princess or because this is all crazy and historic, but because you're you. Because you laugh at terrible jokes and blush when people are nice to you, and get excited about grocery stores. Zara's cheeks started turning purple under her makeup. Jake, I know you have to go back to being a princess now. I know you have important duties and your people need you. But I want you to know that the person you are when you're just being yourself, that person is amazing. Tears started forming in Zara's eyes, which looked really weird with the brown contact lenses. You don't understand. When I go back up there, I have to be perfect again. No more laughing at nothing. No more getting excited about silly things. No more blushing. Jake finished sadly. No more blushing, she agreed. Princesses don't blush. That's their loss, Jake said firmly. Your blush is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Zara made a sound that was half laugh, half sob. The purple colors spread across her entire face and neck, visible even through the makeup. You're going to make me cry. Sorry? I just wanted you to know. The communication device started speaking again, and this time the robotic voice sounded angry. Princess Zara, this is your final warning. Respond immediately, or we will assume hostile action has been taken against you. Zara wiped her eyes and walked over to the device. She touched it, and suddenly the room filled with a three-dimensional image of what looked like the bridge of a spaceship. Tall, elegant beings in formal robes stood around looking very serious and very worried. Father, Zara said, her voice instantly becoming more formal. Zara, the central figure, who must have been the king, stepped forward. He looked like an older, more serious version of Zara, with the same star-filled eyes and shimmering skin. Are you injured? Have you been harmed? No. Father, I am safe and unharmed. Where are you? We've been scanning this planet for days. Zara glanced at Jake, then back at the hologram. I am in the dwelling of a human who aided me after my emergency landing. He has been most helpful. Jake could see several of the royal figures exchanging glances at Zara's careful word choice. A human, the king looked concerned. You have made contact with the local species without proper protocols. It was unavoidable. Father, my ship was damaged and I required assistance. And this human, where is he now? Jake stepped into view of the holographic projector before Zara. Good answer. Right here, Your Majesty. The entire royal bridge went silent. Jake had never seen beings from another planet before, but he was pretty sure they all looked shocked. You are the human who assisted our daughter? The king asked. Yes, sir. My name is Jake. Zara crashed near my campsite, and I helped her fix her communication device. He has been very kind, Zara said quickly. He taught me about human customs and helped me blend in, while I gathered information for our mission. Jake noticed she didn't mention the grocery store adventures or the coffee shop, or any of the fun they'd had. She was back to official princess. Speak by sea, the king said slowly. And what do you think of our kind, human Jake? Jake looked at Zara, who was watching him with nervous eyes. He could give the diplomatic answer. Talk about how honored he was and how important this moment was for both species. Or he could tell the truth. I think your daughter is the most amazing person I've ever met, Jake said simply. Smart, kind, funny, brave. You should be really proud of her. The purple blush bloomed across Zara's face so intensely that it was visible even through the makeup. And even in the holographic projection, Several of the royal figures made surprised sounds. Is she a blushing? One of them asked. Princesses? Do not blush, another said disapprovingly. This princess does, Jake said firmly. And it's beautiful. The king stared at his daughter's purple face, then at Jake, then back at his daughter. Something shifted in his expression. Daughter, he said slowly, you look different. I am disguised as a human. Father, for the mission, no, the king said thoughtfully, you look happy. Zara's blush deepened, and she made a small sound that might have been a giggle. The sound echoed through the royal bridge, and Jake saw several of the serious figures actually smile. We will beam you up immediately, one of the royal advisors said. The human authorities are mobilizing, and we must begin formal negotiations, of course. Zara said, her formal mask slipping back into place. I am ready. But Jake could see in her eyes that she wasn't ready at all. Actually, the king said, surprising everyone, perhaps we should discuss this further. Zara, you have learned much about human culture in these few days. Yes, father. And this human, Jake, he has been a good teacher. Zara looked at Jake with an expression so soft and grateful that it made his heart skip. The best teacher of the king nodded slowly. Then perhaps we should not be too hasty. True cultural understanding takes time. Jake felt a spark of hope, but he didn't dare say anything. This was way beyond his understanding of alien politics. However, the king continued. We cannot ignore your human authorities much longer. They are becoming quite insistent about making contact. Outside, the sound of helicopters was getting louder, and Jake could hear vehicles pulling up in front of his building. Looks like we're about to have company, Jake said. Zara looked terrified. What if they want to separate us? What if they think you kidnapped me or I'm dangerous? Then we'll handle it together, Jake said. That's what partners do, right? Partners? Zara's eyes went wide. If you want to be. I mean, you're the expert on your people, and I'm the expert on mine. Seems like a good team for first contact. Zara's smile was so bright it could have powered her spaceship. Yes, she said. Purple blush spreading everywhere. I would like to be partners. The king was watching this exchange with great interest. Very well, he said finally. We will coordinate with your human authorities. But Zara, you will remain on the surface as our cultural liaison. With your partner. The word partner made Zara giggle, which made several royal figures look confused, which made Jake grin. Thank you, father. Do not make me regret this decision, daughter. I won't. I promise. The hologram faded just as someone started pounding on Jake's front. The next few hours were like something out of a movie, except way more confusing and with a lot more paperwork. Jake opened his door to find 6 very serious-looking people in black suits, plus what seemed like half the military, all wanting to know where the alien was. Behind them, news vans were already setting up, and Jake could see neighbors peeking out their windows. I'm Agent Rodriguez, the lead person said, showing her badge. We need to speak with both of you immediately. Sure, Jake said, trying to sound calmer than he felt. But maybe we could do this somewhere more private. I think my neighbor is live streaming this on social media. Within an hour, Jake and Zara found themselves in a secure government facility that looked exactly like every secret base in every alien movie. The only difference was that everyone was being surprisingly polite. So let me get this straight, Agent Rodriguez said, looking at her notes. You're a princess from space. You crashed in the desert. And Jake here helped you fix your communication device. That is correct, Zara said formally. She'd taken out the contact lenses, so her star-filled eyes were visible again, which made everyone in the room stare. And your people are currently parked in spaceships somewhere above us? 3 diplomatic vessels in high orbit. Yes, right? Agent Rodriguez looked like she was getting a headache, and they want to establish peaceful contact with Earth? That is the mission I was sent to accomplish. Agent Rodriguez turned to Jake. And you're just a regular guy who happened to be camping in the right place at the right time? Pretty much, Jake said. Wrong place, right time. I'm still figuring out how to describe it. That made Zara giggle, which made her blush purple, which made all the government people stare again. Does she always do that? Agent Rodriguez asked Jake quietly. The blushing? Yeah, it's kind of her thing. It's cute, right? Focus, please, Agent Rodriguez said. But Jake caught her trying not to smile. The real chaos started when they brought in Dr. Chen, the government's top expert on theoretical alien contact. He took one look at Zara and started asking a million questions about her biology, her technology, her planet's political structure, and what her people wanted from Earth. Zara answered everything patiently and professionally, but Jake could see her getting tired. She kept glancing at him like she was checking to make sure he was still there. The Stellar Court wishes to establish trade agreements, she explained. We have advanced technology, but we lack certain resources that Earth has in abundance. What kind of resources? Dr. Chen asked, scribbling notes frantically. Creativity. Zara said simply. Everyone stopped and stared at her. I'm sorry. What? Agent Rodriguez asked. Creativity. Art, music, stories. Things that come from spontaneous emotion. Zara looked at Jake. My people are very advanced, but we have become perhaps too focused on efficiency and protocol. We have forgotten how to laugh at grocery stores. Dr. Chen looked confused. Laugh at grocery stores? It's a long story, Jake said. We want to learn how humans create beauty and joy. And silliness, Zara continued. In exchange, we offer technology for healing, for space travel, for communication across vast distances. That sounds like a pretty good deal, Agent Rodriguez said slowly. It is a very good deal. Zara agreed, but it requires trust between our peoples and understanding. Dr. Chen was practically vibrating with excitement. This is incredible. We need to set up formal negotiations immediately. Get the president on the line. Contact the UN. This is the biggest moment in human history. Actually, came a new voice from the doorway. I think we should slow down a bit. Everyone turned to see a tall woman in a general's uniform walking into the room. General Hayes, Agent Rodriguez said, standing up quickly. We didn't expect you. I wanted to see our visitor for myself, General Hayes said, studying Zara with sharp eyes. Princess, I'm General Hayes. I'm in charge of making sure this first contact goes smoothly. It is an honor to meet you, General Hayes, Zara said, standing and giving a formal bow. The honor is mine. Now, I've been listening to the reports, and I have a question. You've been on Earth for several days. What's your honest assessment of our species? Zara glanced at Jake, then back at the general. Humans are surprising. How so? You are kind to strangers. You share food and knowledge freely. You say nice things to each other for no reason except to make each other happy. Zara's cheeks started turning purple. You are much more generous with your emotions than my people. And is that good or bad, in your opinion? It is wonderful, Zara said firmly. Your emotions make you strong, not weak. They help you connect with others. They make life more colorful. General Hayes nodded thoughtfully. And Jake here, he's been a good representative of humanity? Zara's blush deepened. Jake he is the best of what humans can be. Kind, patient, helpful. He taught me that being yourself is more important than being perfect. High praise. The general said, looking at Jake with interest. What do you think of all this, son? Jake felt like everyone in the room was staring at him, waiting for some profound statement about first contact and the future of humanity. I think Zara is amazing, he said simply. I think her people and our people could learn a lot from each other. And I think we're all overthinking this. Overthinking? Dr. Chen looked shocked. This is the most important moment in human history, maybe. Jake said, but it's also just people meeting people. Yeah, some of those people are from space. But they're still people. They laugh. They get embarrassed. They worry about doing the right thing. Same as us. Zara was beaming at him now, her whole face glowing purple with happiness. You see? She said to the room. This is what I mean about humans. Jake makes complicated things simple. General Hayes was watching their interaction with a small smile. Princess, may I ask you a personal question? Of course. Are you happy here on Earth? Zara blinked in surprise. Happy? Yes. Do you enjoy being here? Zara looked around the room. Then at Jake. then back at the general. Yes, she said quietly. I am very happy here. For the first time in my life, I feel like I can be myself instead of just being a perfect princess. And if you could choose, would you want to stay longer? Yes, Zara said immediately, then blushed at her own eagerness. I mean, if it would help the diplomatic mission. Oh, it would definitely help, General Hayes said. In fact, I think the best way to handle this whole situation is to take it slow. Real cultural exchange takes time. Understanding takes time. Dr. Chen looked like he might explode. But the scientific opportunities, the technological advances, we could learn so much. And we will, the general said calmly. But rushing into this could cause problems for both our species. Better to build real trust first. She turned to Jake. How would you feel about becoming Earth's first official cultural liaison to the Stellar Court? Jake nearly choked. Me? I'm just a guy who likes looking at stars. You're a guy who made first contact work, General Hayes corrected. You helped a scared, crashed alien feel safe and welcome. You taught her about human kindness. That's exactly the kind of person we need for this job. What would I have to do? Help Princess Zara continue learning about human culture. Show her more of Earth. Let her teach you about her people, basically. Keep doing what you've been doing. Jake looked at Zara, who was watching him with hopeful, star-filled eyes. Would you want me to? He asked her. More than anything, she said softly. Then yes, Jake said to the general. I'd be honored. The next few months were like living in a wonderful dream. Jake and Zara traveled all over Earth, with Zara serving as the official ambassador for her people and Jake as her cultural guide. They visited museums and national parks, went to concerts and festivals, met with world leaders and ordinary families. Everywhere they went, people were fascinated by Zara, not just because she was from space, but because she was so genuinely interested in everything and everyone. She asked questions about human art, human music, human traditions. She laughed at jokes and cried at sad movies and blushed purple every single time someone complimented her. The media loved her. The blushing princess became one of the most famous people on Earth. But what they loved most was watching her with Jake. The way she lit up when he walked into a room. The way he could make her laugh just by being himself. The way they looked at each other when they thought no one was watching. You know people are shipping you too, right? Jake's sister Riley said during one of their video calls. Shipping us where? Zara asked, confused. It means they want you to be romantically involved, Riley explained. There are fan clubs dedicated to your relationship. Zara's blush was so intense it was visible even through the video call. People think about our relationship, honey. Half the planet is rooting for you two to fall in love, Riley said with a grin. Jake felt his own face getting red. Riley, what? It's adorable. You're like a real-life fairy tale. Human guy meets alien princess. They fall in love, live happily ever after. We're not. Jake started, then stopped. Were they falling in love? When had Zara stopped being just an amazing friend and started being the person he couldn't imagine living without? He looked at Zara, who was staring at him with wide, star-filled eyes. Are we? She asked quietly. Are we what? Falling in love? Jake felt his heart stop for a moment. Then he looked at this incredible, beautiful, blushing alien.